Hey guys, it's Julia, designer at the Quilty Cow, and today's tutorial is on the Stuart Squirrel pillow accessory. Before we begin, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Husqvarna Viking sewing machines, Creative Grids rulers, mats, and rotary cutters. Let's get started.
Quiet on set, we are rolling.
The Helpful Heifer Back Home Pillow series has many different pillow accessories. Today's tutorial is going to work with the Stuart Squirrel. You can find this kit on our website at thequiltycow.com or on our Facebook Lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Let's get started with the first step. So to begin the process, you're going to go ahead and draw a line diagonally from corner to corner on the back side of all of the squares that are notated in the top paragraph. Once you have that done, go ahead and piece them with the pieces that it states. On this pillow accessory, we do have some half square triangles just to save time and fabric. So make sure you're squaring those up to 1.5 inches. Once you have that done, go ahead and lay them all out on your table or your sewing mat, and then we'll start piecing. To begin, I'm going to go ahead and start piecing with my orange leaf. Now to do that, I'm just going to take my little JJ square and start piecing it together with my half square triangle in orange. Let's go ahead and go stitch. Once you have these pieces sewn together, go ahead and press your seams. Whenever I'm making my pillow accessories, I do like to just chain stitch. So I'll pick a section and piece all the pieces I can do, and then cut them, press them, and assemble them from there. For this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and do one step at a time, just so I can walk everybody through it. So once we have these two pieces, I'm going to go ahead and pick the other point on my leaf and go ahead and stitch that to the right side. Now that I have the top part of my leaf, I'm going to go ahead and continue stitching with the rest of my remaining orange pieces. Go ahead and sew those together now. Once you have your orange leaf sewn together, it should look like this. I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing for the red leaf. It just faces the other direction. So go ahead and stitch your red leaf together now. Now that you have your red leaf sewn together, I'm going to start sewing my background pieces. So I'm going to start with the one that goes on the top of my red leaf, the letter MM, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch that on now. Now that I have the top stitched onto my leaf, I'm going to go ahead and sew both sides. So I'm going to put the AA on the right side and the LL on the left side. Let's go stitch those now. Now that I have my red leaf segment all sewn together, I'm going to go ahead and set that aside and finish my orange leaf. Now the orange leaf is much simpler. You just go ahead and put the big pieces right on the sides. So the smallest goes on the left and the largest goes on the right. Let's go ahead and stitch those on now. Now that I have the orange leaf piece, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the squirrel. So I'm going to start with his face, and let's start right in the center and create his eye. So I'm going to take these little squares and stitch them together and go ahead and sew that entire strip. Once you have the eye in the center of the squirrel's face, I'm going to go ahead and add his nose and the back of his head. So go ahead and sew those on now. Now that I have the squirrel's face assembled, I'm going to go ahead and assemble his ear with the background piece that's next to it. Go ahead and stitch those together now. Now that I have the background and his ear sewn together, I'm going to go ahead and attach that right to his face. So go sew those together now. Now that I have his face completely assembled, I'm going to go ahead and attach the LL rectangle and then start working on the tail. So I'll sew the tail to the other side of the LL. Let's go sew those together now. Now that you have your squirrel head and tail part assembled, it should look like this. Let's go ahead and start working on the little curve for the tail. So to do that, I'm going to start in the center. So I'm going to start by piecing the QQ together with my W rectangle So go ahead and stitch those together now. Okay, now that I have this center, I'm going to go ahead and attach the V and the U squares. So go ahead and go sew those on now. Now that I have the cute curve for the squirrel's tail assembled, I'm going to go ahead and attach it right to the T that we put on the squirrel. So let's go sew those together now. Now that I have the little curve attached to the squirrel's head, we can go ahead and stitch this to the red leaf, and that'll be our entire middle section. Now that you have the curve and the head attached to the red leaf, go ahead and set this piece aside and we'll start working on the body and tail of the squirrel. So I'm going to take the two largest pieces, which is the body and the tail, and go ahead and start by stitching those together. Go start sewing those now. Now that you have the tail sewn to the body, go ahead and set this piece aside and we're going to start working on the hand. The pieces you're going to need for that are the background PP and then the little hand P. Go ahead and stitch those together now. Once you have the hand and the background piece together, go ahead and stitch the letter GG background to the background side, and we're going to go ahead and stitch the arm to the solid side. Go stitch those together now. Now that you have his hand stitched together, go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to start working on the flower or the pinwheel that he's holding. So you will need your remaining orange half square triangles, and go ahead and stitch those together in the correct order. Go sew now. Now that I have my pinwheel pieced together, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the OO background right to the bottom of this. So go ahead and sew that together now. Once you have your background stitched to the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and apply the background piece, HH, with the two little brown tummy pieces. Let's go sew those together now. Now that I have my pinwheel stitched onto the little background with the tummy pieces, I'm going to set this aside and start working on the acorn. So to do that, I'm going to start with the acorn top, which should look like this. And I'm going to go ahead and sew the background pieces on both sides. Go ahead and sew those on now. Now that I have the little acorn part pieced together, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the background piece to the top of this. Now that I have this section of my acorn assembled, I'm going to go ahead and stitch it to my pinwheel. So go ahead and sew those together now. Now that you have your acorn stitched to your pinwheel, go ahead and set this piece aside, and we're going to start working on the feet and the acorn top. So I'm going to begin by doing the acorn top and the background piece on the left. So go ahead and stitch those together now. Once you have your acorn and background piece stitched together, go ahead and sew the foot and background piece together to continue that row. The last piece for this row is to go ahead and sew your acorn top to your foot. So go stitch those together now. Now that you have the acorn top and the foot assembled together, go ahead and sew that to the bottom of your pinwheel piece, and go ahead and sew your hand and arm to the top of the pinwheel piece. Let's go sew those together now. Once you have your pinwheel and acorn all assembled together, go ahead and stitch this onto the tummy of your squirrel. Once you have the center section of the squirrel pieced together, go ahead and stitch it to your red leaf and the top part of your squirrel. Sew those together now. Now that you have your squirrel assembled, go ahead and attach the background end piece right here by the squirrel's tail. Now that you have your background piece assembled, you can go ahead and stitch your orange leaf to the top and your grass to the bottom. Go ahead and do those pieces now. Now that you have the top done for your pillow accessory, your project should look like this. The next step is to go ahead and add the interfacing. And then I always square up both of my pieces at the same time. If you choose, you can go ahead and square up your pillow accessory top and go ahead and apply it to your interfacing that's already been cut. Go ahead and go do those now. Once you have your interfacing applied to your pillow top and you have your project squared up, it's time to add the backing. So to add the backing for this, go ahead and just place it right side down on top. And I'm going to add some clips just to hold everything in place. Once you have your project clipped together, I'm going to go ahead and start stitching, but I am going to leave a 3 to 4 inch opening right here along the grass or the bottom of my project for turning. Go ahead and go sew them out. Now that I have my backing sewn onto my pillow top, it's time to turn everything right side out. I'm going to go ahead and clip my corners and turn and press. Now that I have my project turned right side out and pressed, I went ahead and tucked in my turn opening. The final step is to go ahead and step to your machine and top stitch all around, and then we'll add the snaps for assembly. Now that I have my project top stitched, it's time to go ahead and apply our snaps. Now I'm going to use a friction pin and this adorable little Creative Grids ruler and just measure in a 1/2 inch from all 4 corners and sides. Now that I have all 4 corners marked, I'm going to go ahead and apply my snaps. So I'm going to start here with the top, and I'm just going to use a seam ripper. You can use a hole punch, you can use the precision seam ripper, whatever you choose. This is what I always do. And I'm going to add my cap, which is my solid circle, on the front of this. And then I'm going to add my stud snap, which is the one that has the outie piece, or the male snap version. Go ahead and apply that and just pinch them together. Once you have that one applied, go ahead and do the other top corner the same way. Now that I have both snaps applied on the top corners, I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom corners using my socket or my innie snaps on the bottom. Go ahead and apply those now. Once you have all 4 snaps onto your pillow accessory, you are finished. Once again, this is a Stuart Squirrel pillow accessory, part of the Back Home Pillow series. You can find this kit on our website at thequiltedcow.com or on our Facebook Lives on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Please like and subscribe for more tutorials, and thanks for watching.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats. Thanks for watching.